Ladies and gentlemen, farming in America has been through a lot. You have the situation where immigrants walked away and crops rotted across the country. You had situations where hurricanes came through and wiped out all the crops in the South. You have a situation where we went through a polar vortex. Um, Negative degrees and flooding and heavy snow and all kinds of terrible condition. The rain has been endless in parts of the Midwest, and they never bounce back, y'all. Many of these farmers are saying 2019 is turning out to be a big loss for them. So let's get into the story that came out of Seeking Alpha, May 16th, 2019. Total catastrophe for U.S. corn production. Only 30% of U.S. corn fields have been planted. 5-year average is 66%. So they went to having 66% of the corn planted down to just 30% in 2019. Wow. 2019 is turning out to be a nightmare that never ends for the agriculture industry. Thanks to endless rain and unprecedented flooding, fields all over the middle part of the country are absolutely soaked right now. And this has prevented many farmers from getting their crops in the ground. I knew that this was a problem, but when I heard that only 30% of U.S. cornfields had been planted as of Sunday, I had a really hard time believing it. But it turns out that the number is 100% accurate. At this point, corn farmers are up against a wall because crops insurance finally planting dates have either already passed or are coming up very quickly. In addition, for every day after May 15th that corn is not in the ground, farmers lose approximately 2% of their yield. Unfortunately, more rain is on the way, and it looks like thousands of corn farmers will not be able to plant corn at all this year. Wow. And you know what that means? Higher prices at the supermarket. Grow your corn. I do it. Okay. Unfortunately, more rain is on the way, and it looks like thousands of corn farmers will not be able to plant their corn at all this year. So it's no exaggeration to say that what we are facing is a true national catastrophe. According to the Department of Agriculture, over the past 5 years, an average of 66% of all cornfields were already planted by now. U.S. farmers seeded 30% in 2019 corn crop by Sunday. Okay, so it's just repeating what I said earlier. But ladies and gentlemen, I want you to think about the Black farmers that deliberately got sold bad seeds. And this was breaking news last year in 2018. Look at what's happening now. Soybean farmers have more time to recover, but they are facing a unique problem of their own, which we'll talk about later in this article. I know what they're talking about. Trump's trade war. It is going to kick their asses. I know what they're talking about. In Iowa, 48% planted. 5-year average is 76%. So at this same time last year and over the past 5 years, they had 76% of the corn crops planted. This year, only 48%. In Minnesota, 21% planted. And over the past 5 years, they averaged 65% of the corn crops were planted by now. North Dakota, 11%. Wow. Planted, their average over the last 5 years is 43%. That's a big drop. All of these are huge drops. South Dakota, 4%. Wow. Only one in the single digits planted. And their 5-year average is 54%. Wow. Woo. Yes, you read those numbers correctly. Can you imagine what this is going to do to food prices? Yes, I can imagine. And while corn is still reasonable, those of you that like corn, you better rack up on it, get some Ziploc bags and put them babies in your freezer. So when the prices go through the roof, you'll already have some. Many farmers are extremely eager to plant crops, but the wet conditions have made it impossible. The following comes from ABC 7 Chicago. McNeil grows corn and soybeans on more than 500 acres in Grace Lake, but much of his farmland is underwater right now, and all of it is too wet to plant. Rain is a farmer's friend in the summer, but in the spring, too much rain keeps farmers from planting. Well, it's not much you can do if you're underwater. The unusually wet spring has affected farmers throughout the Midwest, but Illinois has been especially hard hit. Experts say with the soil so wet, heavy, and cold, it takes the air out and washes nutrients away, making it difficult, if not impossible, for seeds to take root. Mm-mm-mm. Right now, moisture levels in the state of Illinois are at a 90th to 99th percentile statewide. Wow. So, in other words, the entire state is completely and utterly drenched. Wow. Whoa. As a result, very few Illinois farmers have been able to get corn or soybeans in the ground at this point. Ain't gonna be nothing for them to trade with China, especially with the trade war going on top of that. According to the U.S. Department of Agriculture Crops Progress Report, about 11% of Illinois' corn has been planted and about 4% of the soybeans. Last year at this time, 88% of corn and 56% of soybeans were in the ground. Wow, what a difference. That's a hell of a difference. 1 year, y'all, 1 year. I would use the word catastrophe to describe what Illinois farmers are facing, but the truth is that what they are going through is far beyond that. Normally, if corn farmers have a problem getting corn in the ground, then they just switch to soybeans instead. But thanks to the trade war, I knew that was coming up, soy exports have plummeted dramatically. Yeah, China buy all of their soybeans from the US. So these farmers can't even get their soybean plants in the ground. So that money is now all lost. And the price of soybeans is the lowest that it's been in a decade. As a result, there is very little profit, if any, in growing soybeans this year. Farmers in many parts of the Corn Belt have suffered from a wet and cooler spring, which has prevented them from planting corn. Typically, when it comes too late to plant corn, farmers instead plant soybeans, which can grow later into the fall before harvest is required. Yet now, planting soybeans with the overabundance already in bins and scant hopes for sales to the other biggest buyers in China could raise the risk of a financial disaster. Wow. If the wet conditions persist, many soybean farms are not going to be able to plant crops at all this year. Sadly, global weather patterns are continuing to go haywire, and much more rain is coming to the middle of the country starting on Friday. And remember, Trump said global warming is a hoax. And they've been given warnings about the weather becoming more turbulent on the planet, and we are seeing it. We have been seeing it. Any hopes of getting corn and soybean planted back on track in the US may be washed away starting Friday as a pair of storms threaten to deliver a 1-2 punch of soaking rain and tornadoes across Great Plains and Midwest through next week. As much as 3 to 5 inches of rain will soak soil from South Dakota to Minnesota, south to Texas, Oklahoma, and Arkansas, according to the U.S. Weather Prediction Center in College Park, Maryland. We have never had a year quite like this before. The U.S. food production is going to be substantially below expectations. I very much encourage everyone to get prepared for much higher food prices and a tremendous amount of uncertainty in the months ahead. Even though I have been regularly documenting the nightmarish agricultural conditions in the middle of the country, the numbers in this article are much worse than I thought they would be at this point in 2019. This is truly a major national crisis, and it is just getting started. It sure is. It sure is. We haven't even seen the disasters that are coming this summer. But please tell me what you think, ladies and gentlemen. This is absolutely crazy that the Midwest is still underwater, y'all. Still underwater from winter time. And we are already approaching late spring. And they're still underwater. But please tell me what you think. Farmers are going to have to cut their loss in 2019 for real. We are truly at the end, y'all. Please leave your comment and subscribe. Don't forget to hit on the notification bell, and I'll see you on the next video. Peace, family.